Hello, everyone. Thank you for attending today. My name is Janet Herron, and I'm a communications advisor here at Memorial University's Harris Center. And I'm kind of hosting today's event, and kind of not, but this event is Thriving Regions with the Harris Center Exploits Edition. First thing we will do is a land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that the lands on which Memorial University's campuses are situated are in the traditional territories of diverse Indigenous groups, and we acknowledge with respect the histories and cultures of the Beothuk, Mi'kmaq, Innu, and Inuit of this province. We encourage everyone to reflect on these lands from where you are located and the Indigenous peoples for whom these lands are traditional territory. The Harris Center is Memorial University's hub for public policy and regional development issues. It links Memorial faculty, students, and staff with groups across Newfoundland and Labrador, supporting active community engagement throughout the research process. Working with all units at Memorial, the Harris Center builds connections, encourages informed debate, and supports collaboration to enhance the province through mutually beneficial partnerships. The Harris Center also offers applied research funding, which is what we are here to talk about today. I'm here with my colleagues, Bojan Fürst, Manager, Knowledge Mobilization, and Chris Paterson, Coordinator, Knowledge Mobilization. They are going to be talking about, surprise, surprise, knowledge mobilization, but most specifically the Thriving Regions Partnership process and how that relates to a recent call for expressions of interest in the exploit region. They're going to give a very short presentation, and then the two of them are more than happy to answer your specific questions. So over to you, Bojan and Chris. I'm just going to now let them share their screen, and I'm going to go off screen.
Hello, folks. This is not going to be death by PowerPoint. We have a super short presentation. So what we are going to do today, we'll tell you a little bit about the specific funding opportunity that we have open at the moment. It's part of our Thriving Regions Partnership process, and that whole process is designed around regional priorities and advancing those regional priorities through research. So for those of you who may or may not be familiar with how Memorial University works, part of the reason why we can do what we do is that within the institutional context, Memorial University has a special obligation to the people of Newfoundland and Labrador. That's written right into the Memorial University Act. And that special obligation was met in different ways through the history of Memorial. We also continue to be the only university in Canada with public engagement framework that is Senate approved, and it's a guiding document for everything that the university does. So there are three frameworks: the research one, teaching and learning one, and public engagement framework. That framework is basically what guides the work that units like ours and everybody else at Memorial who is doing publicly engaged work governed by. Knowledge mobilization is an important part of all of our applications. In Canadian context, knowledge mobilization refers to the ways that we can make research useful to society. Just a second. Sorry about that. My mouse is not working properly. Okay. So knowledge mobilization is actually a way that we can make research useful to society. And so all of the work that we do at the Harris Center is focused on that mutual understanding, mutual benefit, and co-creation of research whenever possible, not only co-creation, but certainly collaboration. So the Thriving Regions partnership process is something we devised. Pandemic has screwed up my sense of time, but I wanted to say some 6 years ago, maybe 5. And it's specifically designed to help regions determine some priorities in the very first workshop. It's a process that takes about 16 to 18 months per region. We do 2 regions a year. It has 4 workshops. The first thing we do is create a small planning team that helps us determine what the region is, what the venue is going to be.
Bojan, you're frozen right now. Sorry, I'm just jumping in.
Okay.
Let's try that. Can you go back to that other screen? Sorry, you froze.
Certainly, I'm just not sure what happened here. Okay, so we issue a call for expressions of interest. There is a small evaluation committee that has equal number of members from memorial, academic members, and non-academic members. It has a regional co-chair and academic co-chair. From all the applications, the committee will pick 3. Those are the researchers that we are going to invite back to the region. They will present the short idea. This is not a full research proposal. This is just sort of a vague idea they're going to propose to the community, and then together in the conversation with the community in the second workshop, they will finalize that that idea into something that's closer to a full proposal. When they come back, they will write a full proposal. The evaluation committee will look at the 3 proposals and approve or not the funding for those projects. They're specifically making sure that the proposals are methodologically sound, but also that they, in tangible way, reflect the conversations in the community and meet those, and in some way advance one or more of the priorities the communities determined. At this point, the researchers will go do their thing for about 8 months to a year. But we are going to come back to the community as the Harris Center. We have a specific tool called Community Check-in. That's the third workshop, which is really designed around helping community increase its civic capacity. It's a session that helps them reflect on how they work together as a region and as a community, what works well, what could work better, and what kind of steps they can take to improve the way they work as a community. The last workshop happens at the end of the process. We invite researchers back to the community. They present the research results, and we have a small action planning session for the region to help them use those research results in their future development planning. We have funding for maximum of 3 projects, $15,000 each, in each of the regions that we do. And we do 2 regions a year, so that's 6 research projects a year somewhere in the province. Chris, you can take over and you let me know when you need me to advance the slides.
All right, thanks, Bojan, and good afternoon, everyone. This is Chris Paterson again. Work with Bojan on this process and other knowledge mobilization efforts here at the Harris Center. And just to clarify, sometimes if you're not used to Bojan's accent, it's certain words may be hard to hear. I just want to clarify. He said $15,000 per project, not 50. 15. So, and often when folks sort of hear sort of about the Thriving Regions process and sort of understanding that the Harris Center is focused on regional development, some people make an assumption that it's a sort of a narrow band of what we tend to fund through these processes. And this is just, you know, what you see on the slide here is just a small example of the range of projects. So we have everything, you know, from sort of more traditional, what you might think of business development or regional development, but we also have things, a number of science-based, from the science faculty. So assessing the potential for land-based production of green sea urchins, sort of looking at could we sort of do a business around sort of a sea urchin and sea urchin roe in one region. And another example is at the very bottom there, protecting Atlantic salmon aquaculture, again, by looking at different types of feedstocks and conditions and dealing with climate-related changes. So we absolutely have funded sort of more science-based projects. We've funded a number in the arts and theater there, storytelling through shadow puppetry, and then folklore in terms of traditional knowledge inventory. So it's quite the range. So I don't want you to sort of think that this is somehow it really is driven less by where you're coming from and more by what the regional priorities are. So we encourage folks, as you sort of take a look at the report that comes out of that first workshop that Bojan mentioned, and you can find that on our webpage. If you go to the Thriving Regions page and look for exploits, that you can click on a link of the copy of the workshop report. And within that, so you'll see some sort of general description of the categories. So as you see here, thank you, Bojan. As you see here, for the exploits, there's 4, creative and multiple solutions to healthcare needs, culture and tourism, labor force development, and regional cooperation. But underneath that, if you go to the report itself, you have a much longer, we attempt to capture everything that comes out of that first workshop in terms of the community participants, in terms of the sorts of things they're interested in. And as you go in there and take a look at the list, anything that relates in some way to that general priority is fair game for putting in an EOI. So we don't want you to think that somehow, I had a conversation a month or so ago with a potential researcher say, I don't quite see how what I'm doing would fit. And within 5 minutes of us talking through what the priorities were for the different region, he immediately began to see opportunities of linking his research to kind of what the folks in the communities in the region were looking for. So encourage you to take a look at the report, go through and read the different bulleted list underneath each one of those. And as part of that, we'd be happy to chat with anybody who says, well, I'd be interested, but I don't quite see a connection. We're happy to sort of chat with you about what we see as a potential connection. So right now, as noted, we have a current call open. This is actually we've reopened this call, so we have opportunities to fund 2 additional projects in the Exploits Valley. For those who may be less familiar with Newfoundland geography, Exploits is the region around Grand Falls, Windsor. So again, if any questions around sort of the geographic scope of the work, we'd be happy to, again, sit down with you by phone or Zoom or WebEx, whatever you prefer, and sort of chat through kind of what the region is, what the priorities are, and how it might link to some of your ideas. So I think that's it for me. We'd be happy at this point if anybody has any immediate questions or thoughts or would like to sort of talk through a little bit more of what we've just described. Happy to do it. I'm not sure if, Bojan, if you said this, but so another question that sometimes comes up is who's eligible for the funding?
Yes.
You want to address that, Bojan?
Sure, I can chat about that. So our funding is available to faculty, students, and staff. Students and staff and faculty who do not hold research accounts must have a faculty co-applicant or a supervisor. And for all of them, they have to have a relationship with Memorial for the duration of the project. We are very aware that this may present difficulty for sessional faculty and contract faculty in case where their contracts may not last a full year. But unfortunately, this is research and the funding is distributed through the research accounts, which means that they need to have that relationship with the university. And of course, another thing, this is research funding. So you have to meet all of the research office requirements around ethics, animal care, biohazard. All of those clearances have to be in place before we would ever release the funding to you. And the process on our website explains how to go about the applications.
Another question we sometimes get is, do we need to have a community partner before we start? And the answer to that is no. We encourage, as you know, through the EOI process, the form itself asks you if you have any relationships with folks in the community. So if you have already done some work or you already know people in the region, we encourage you to identify that. But we don't expect you to have all those partnerships in place before you actually start. That is often part of what happens even in that second workshop when we invite researchers to come to the community and sort of share their ideas. Some of the partnerships get developed then. So it's certainly through the course of the project, the expectation is that you'll be working closely with one or more, set of folks within the region, but it's not a requirement when you first start.
What other kind of questions do we got, Chris?
We do have a question here, Bojan. Do you see that?
Mhm.
How can we send our idea for a proposal? They apologized and said that they might have been a bit late joining. But yeah, how does that work?
No problem. If you just go to the Harris Center website, that's mun.ca/Harris Center, click on the thriving regions, you'll see the Exploits Valley. Funding is opened. Click on the link to apply. It will take you to the application portal. You will also need to, never mind. Click on the application portal and it will guide you through the process. It's a very simple, this is not a full proposal stage. We expect you to give us your contact information and write a maximum 1,000 words letter explaining what your idea is, how it's relevant to the region. It has to be region specific. And which of the priorities from the first workshop your idea would address. That's all you need to do at this stage.
And if part of the question was sharing your idea in advance with us, just to talk about it, even before you start the submission process, if you'd like to, as I mentioned, if you would like a little bit of a conversation, make sure what you're thinking of might fit within one of those priorities or within that region. Best way is just to reach out by email to either one of us and set up a time for a quick chat.
Okay, I'm coming back on here. Oops, here I am. Now, I think that's the only question. So you both have done a fantastic job of explaining things. We're actually, do have a final question here, though. Someone's asking about your email. So can you just, both of you give your emails out loud and maybe put them in the chat too?
Just did. It's B as in Bob, FURST@mun.ca.
Perfect.
Bojan types faster than I do. I'm working on mine.
And there is another question. Do applicants need unit approvals for EOI full application? For the full application, you absolutely need your unit approvals. You need to do that through the Romeo system. Yes, through the research portal, you would need to get all of those done. And they will automatically be then transferred to your application if you get to the application stage. For the EOI, these are not research proposals. This is really the beginning of the conversation. Your proposal will come in place after the second workshop, after we bring you out to the community and have a conversation. So for the proposal, absolutely, you will have to go through the Romeo.
Okay, let's just check to see. Yep, everyone says thank you for answering the questions. And I think that's it. So if there's no more questions right now, you can reach out directly to either Bojan or Chris on their emails, and you've got their emails. You can visit the Harris Center website. We actually did put the link to the page where you actually apply on the chat. So that's it. We have been recording this session and it will be available on the Harris Center's YouTube channel in the next couple of days. So if you wanted to go back and look at it again or share it with some of your colleagues, you can feel free to do that. And we thank you all very much for attending. There's more details on all of the Thriving Regions partnership process on our website and all the other options and programs and projects the Harris Center is involved with. And you might want to consider subscribing to the regional, which is the Harris Center's newsletter. Again, you can find that link on our website, and that'll help keep you informed of all of the Harris Center events and activities and programs. You can sign up for more events like this. So I hope everyone has a great day wherever they are. And thanks again for attending. And we look forward to seeing you again. Bye. And thank you to Bojan and Chris.
Thanks,
Oh.
everybody.
See ya. Bye.